Thank you very much for being here today. For those who are not from Nebraska, I'm Dave Heineman, the governor of Nebraska. I have with me the governor of Iowa, Kansas, North and South Dakota. I also want to note that the governor of Missouri and the governor of Montana were on by phone with us. We had representatives here from Missouri and the state of Wyoming. So all the states that are concerned about these flooding issues were here and present today, even in cases where their governors couldn't make it. I believe my office shared with you earlier this morning the letter that we're sending to our congressional delegations relative to this issue, and I just want to emphasize from my perspective again, the number one priority that we're all concerned about is flood control. We had a very good discussion with the Corps again today. This discussion is going to continue. In all likelihood, we'll try to arrange another meeting with the Corps in November as they begin to finalize their annual operating plan and what's going to occur next year. Because I think for most governors now, our concern is about next year. We're very concerned. We're very concerned. Even though obviously the water is receded, ground's more saturated than it was a year ago, and it's not going to take much. Put us into a similar position again next year. That's what we want to avoid. We want to work together. We want to work with the Corps in that regard. I'm going to ask my fellow governors to say a few words in the order of Governor
for hosting us, and I think it was a very fruitful meeting today. I appreciate all the governors of the Missouri River working together on this. I also want to say I appreciate the cooperation we've received from FEMA. Beth Freeman from Region 7 was here, and we're still appealing individual assistance, and we've gotten great cooperation from them. All of our counties along the Missouri River have had substantial damage, and we're very hopeful that we will get federal approval for that on that appeal. Also, my Secretary of Agriculture, Bill Northey, and Roger Landy from our Iowa DNR are with me today. And recently, the Iowa Farm Bureau did an estimate of the Missouri River flood damage to crops at $207 million in the state of Iowa. So this is a very substantial loss that we've had. Also, you know, the highway and also the federal highway people were here. I'm proud to say that Highway 29 has been reopened, and we're working feverishly on 680. And on my way back to Iowa, I'm going to stop and take a look at that. I'm told that they're hoping to have that open, and that's a vital link between us here in Omaha sometime in the month of November. So there's a lot of collaboration, cooperation that has gone on between the states and with these federal agencies. I think one of our big concerns is obviously the need to focus on flood control so we don't have another devastating flood that lasts as long as this one did. And Governor Dalrymple is going to talk a little bit about an idea that he has that would provide some more storage space in North Dakota that would help, I think, in this whole effort. But that's one of the things we think needs to be done, and the Corps needs to respond to some of the concerns that have been expressed to prevent an occurrence like this again. And we know we can't predict the weather, but we're in a wet cycle. And I was governor in '93, and we thought it was the worst flood we ever had. And then 2008 in eastern Iowa, we had a terrible flood, and now we've got this on the Missouri River. And I'm just saying, I don't, can call this a 500-year flood if you want, but when they happen every 10 years or every 3 or 4 years, you start wondering about that. At any rate, I'm very appreciative of Governor Heineman's leadership in putting this together. I think you can see the governor's all committed to making sure that we do all we can to protect our farmers and our homeowners and our businesses that are impacted. And we want to make sure this kind of tragic, extensive flood doesn't exist again and again.
Thanks to Governor Heineman also for hosting the governors here today in Omaha. We really appreciate the opportunity to be together talk about the Missouri River with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I think all of the Missouri River governors have something very much in common this year. We've all been hurt by the Missouri River. In Bismarck, North Dakota, we had to build 7.2 miles of levees in a 10-day period. We also placed in the Bismarck-Mandan area 11 million sandbags by hand. That is something that you don't forget very quickly, and something that we certainly don't want to go through ever again. This meeting was a great opportunity for us to talk about things we can do to improve the situation. Rather than talk in generalities, I made a very specific request of the Army Corps of Engineers today. I asked them to seriously consider lowering the elevation of the water behind Garrison Dam north of Bismarck, North Dakota by 2.5 feet. That change over a 38-day period would create 750,000 acre-feet of storage that I think would come in very handy next spring as we look at next year's flood event. Would it prevent something like what happened this year? Of course not. But we do need to look at this operating plan of the Missouri River in the context of what the forecasts are for next year. We know the ground throughout the Missouri River Valley is saturated. Subsoil moisture levels are still very high. We know that the National Weather Service is forecasting below average temperatures for Montana and the Dakotas. We know that they are also forecasting above average precipitation specifically in Montana. That means that we should take all of these things into consideration and try now, we believe, to create more storage in the system. The governors today, I believe, agreed with that. I think they feel that that is the kind of incremental change that we need to make. And the Corps of Engineers has said that they are going to take it under consideration. Even if we simply move that water further down the Missouri main stem and position it further down the river for next spring, we believe that it would be a significant advantage. The other thing that we asked the Corps to do today, or I asked them to do, is to consider data other than the National Weather Service in regard to snowpack. We know that Montana has an extensive gauge system of measuring snow. We believe that the Upper Plains states are going to do a better job from now on of measuring snowpack, and we think the Corps should be looking at all available data in their decision making and not just data from the National Weather Service. So all in all, thanks to Governor Heineman, again, a very worthwhile meeting, and I think we're heading for a place where governors are going to have more and more to say about the management of the Missouri River.
Like the other governors, I want to thank Governor Heineman for hosting us here today, and thank the governors who participated in person and by phone, and representatives from Wyoming who represented their governor. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the governors with whom South Dakota shares a border during our flood fight. We had help from Governor Dalrymple in the form of a helicopter that we could use. We had help from Governor Heineman as we closed parts of the Missouri River and made a joint request to the Coast Guard. I had help from Governor Branstad, who moved a highway closure location into South Dakota so we could quickly set up a temporary exit from the interstate to build levees in Dakota Dunes. And so it is helpful to have these relationships with other governors, and meetings like this perpetuate those relationships. I also want to say thank you to Governor Dalrymple for his very specific recommendation to provide a little bit more storage capacity in North Dakota. I had a chance to look at that proposal over the weekend, and in visiting with our state hydrologist, we're in agreement with that proposal, and we'll be issuing a formal letter in support of that. And I think there will be other governors to do that as well. This meeting also, I want to thank General McMahon and members from the Highway Administration and federal FEMA representatives who were here to answer questions. I do think General McMahon will have a heightened sense of the concern that we all share as governors about the need to respond as quickly as possible to threats of flooding earlier in the year if possible. And storage capacity is just one such means by which the Corps can respond. Other means are, of course, to increase releases as information about increased snowpack accumulates in the data. I also joined Governor Dalrymple in his suggestion that we need to do more accurate measuring and automated measuring of plain snowpack to accompany the better system of automated measuring that we have in the mountain snowpack. The Army Corps of Engineers can only gauge with information that it has available, and if the information available to it is not as good a quality as you want, then the decision making won't be as good a quality as you want. Again, I thank Dave Heineman for hosting this meeting and thank the other governors for participating.
I'm Sam Brownback, Governor of Kansas. I have my purple tie on today in recognition of the 6-0 K-State Wildcats. If none of you knew that, ranked number 12, I want to just throw that out for information to everybody. I want to thank Dave for hosting this meeting. It was excellent. And it's a process of coming together as Missouri River governors, and this is not an easy process because it has different issues up and down the river. And so there's going to be sharp opinions because there's different uses of the river. I specifically want to endorse Jack's approach on his reservoir that's in their state. And I think this creates a situation where we can work with the Corps, providing a specific idea of how we move forward. And I want to put it in context of this year. The system is weakened now relative to what it was going into this year. The Missouri River system and the levee system is in a weakened state relative to what it was going into this year. It operated slightly above the conservation pool going into March of this year. What he's talking about is pulling it down roughly 800,000, 750,000 cubic feet, acre feet. And you could say that isn't going to impact very much. I think the Corps would say that's probably 3 or 4 days of flow for the year. But I stood in a man's field in Kansas that they overtopped the levee system. And he's looking at fixing a 60-foot hole in his field. Once the top 10 feet of dirt went and it's sand down to the bedrock, there was like another 60 feet of sand. It just dug the sand out. And he's going to be working all winter doing that. If he gets 6 inches less of water on that levee, he says it doesn't flow over it. It didn't go over the top of it. This is a situation where inches matter. And anything we can do to purchase a little bit of insurance, hopefully on the cheap, to provide for a weakened system would be an important thing for us to do. And that's why we're urging the Corps to do it.
Let me just say, again, I appreciate all the governors being here, too, who were there by phone, our Wyoming representatives who were here. We very much appreciate that. We'll now try to answer your questions. I do want to make one comment relative to Governor Brownback. We want to be helpful to Kansas State this year. That's why we're not playing them, so they can go undefeated.
Thank you.
Question.
We have to play you this year.
Well, but see, Iowa is welcoming us to the Big Ten, and the rumor I hear is
they're going to make sure we win that game. So, Terry, thank you very much for that. Questions you may have for any of us. Football's easier than the Missouri River. Well, I think that's the big issue, and I'm sure every governor will want to comment on it. But here, and you've heard it repeatedly from the governors, we're concerned that we're in a weakened state relative to where we were a year ago. We've gone through this 1 in 500-year event. We clearly have more water right outside behind us in the Missouri River than we normally have. Our grounds, our lands are saturated, so it isn't going to take as much moisture to get right back to where we are. So we're all concerned about what additional steps can we take. That's why we appreciate Governor Dalrymple's suggestion of additional storage. And I agree with what Governor Brownback said. It's a matter of inches. A matter of a couple of days would make a great deal of a difference to all of us. So that's what we're trying to focus on. Where can we get just a little extra security, so to speak, for our people, their homes, their farms, their ranches, their businesses, for our public infrastructure. So that's what we're focused on. Let me ask the other governors comment.
I would just say I think we're in unanimity that we don't want to have happen again next year what happened this year. A flood of this extent that lasts this long, and having more storage as well as repairing the levees as quickly as they can be. Those are important things to do. I mentioned the work we're doing on the roads and things like that, but we also need to move very quickly on levee repairs, and we won't be at 100%, but the better we can be, and also if there's by releasing more water early, avoiding the situation we had this year where it really got out of control, I think would help.
Other questions? Go ahead.
Why only one day? Why Garrison? Why not look at the entire system and we ask for all the systems?
You know, I think we would all look at that and say that's a wise and prudent way to go. But we're just starting to learn to walk together in the Missouri River system. And here's a specific proposal from a host state that helps us doing that. And in any sort of building of a group together, it's almost a diplomatic negotiation where you're building confidence steps, how we can work together. This one works. And let's do that, and then let's see what's the next one that we could do, rather than just saying this is such a complex system and everything interacts with it so much that we're not going to do anything. Here's a specific one. It is a clear step. It is agreed to. Let's take it.
Go ahead. Dave.
Congressman King in Iowa has called for lowering the three big reservoirs enough to hold all of what this year. What's your reaction to that?
I distributed to the other governors a copy of Congressman King's legislation, and there's several other proposals that have been made in the Congress. So we certainly are. I'm certainly supportive of looking at those alternatives, and I think, as Governor Brownback said, you know, we have a specific proposal that Governor Dalrymple has come forward with, and I think that it does make sense to look at the other dams as well and what can be done there. But we also know that this is a delicate area. It's an area that's is under the control of the Corps of Engineers. So we don't have, as governors, direct control over this. But we do have a governor who is the host state of one of the dams saying we support reducing the level there. I think that's a very important first step. I'm hopeful that we can get other things agreed upon, and certainly we're not all that confident the Congress is going to move, but I do appreciate the effort that Congressman King is making and other congressmen to see this addressed on a national level as well.
Go ahead, Grant.
2 feet going to 2 feet. Would you envision that being
We would say that lowering the level behind Garrison Dam 2.5 feet is in response to what we believe are the current conditions. In other words, the normal operating plan for the Missouri River would make no adjustments whatsoever for variances in circumstances from year to year. We're saying that you should take that into account. National Weather Service says we're going to have more snow, it's going to be colder in Montana. We know that the ground is saturated down through the valley. We know that the levees are in a weakened condition. That calls for an adjustment in the way we look at the elevations behind the reservoirs. We have to do this incrementally. I'm relying on our state water engineer, Todd Sando, who is very familiar with the Missouri River in North Dakota. He's comfortable that because of the relatively dry fall, we can easily move an additional 10,000 cubic feet per second out of that area for 38 days and create some significant additional storage before the river freezes up. It's a very specific proposal brought forward by a professional water engineer, and we think that it will make a difference.
We can take a couple more questions, and I know that everybody's got to get on the road. Yeah, Dave.
What's the response to the Corps have to that plan? Because they're in the process now of putting out the operating plan.
Well, we're in uncharted water, so to speak, right now. The Corps of Engineers is not accustomed to taking direct input from the Missouri River states on how they manage the river. But they did say that they would take the proposal under serious consideration. This is one of the changes in the paradigm that they have agreed to talk with us prior to the finalization of the operating plan. That is unprecedented, and we'll see what happens.
David, let me just add one thing to that, what I said earlier. That's why all of us want to have one more meeting with the Corps of Engineers probably prior to Thanksgiving and the finalization of that annual operating plan for next year so we can give additional specific input.
There also will be hearings, right? I think first one's in Omaha on the 24th, the last one's in Sioux City on the 3rd of November. So there'll be an opportunity for the public also. And General McMahon indicated that in the past he's not gone to these kind of meetings. He intends to be there. So I think there's an opportunity for the public as well to have input. There will be hearings in each of the states on this, and I would encourage people that have, and I know there's a lot of my constituents that have strong feelings about this. I think it would be encourage them to either go to the meeting here in Omaha or the one in Sioux City.
You guys can't change what happened, but for everyone who has thousands and thousands of dollars in damage, everyone who lost their homes, their crops, everything like that, what's the message that you guys have for them, what you are doing within your power
Well, first of all, it's unprecedented to have these Missouri River Basin states governors get together. This is the second meeting. We're going to have another one. We don't want this to happen again, and we know we're in a wet cycle, and that the levees are weakened from where they've been because of the damage this year. So we want to do all we can to try to prevent this kind of thing from reoccurring.
Melissa, let me just add one thing, and may this be the final comment because we've all got to get on the road. I think it's fair to say we as governors care about our citizens. We care about their property. We care about their businesses. That's why we invited in today, for example, FEMA and the Federal Highway Administration in addition to the Corps. Not only to talk about the current situation, obviously Governor Branstad needs FEMA approval for his latest request, which I hope he'll get, but what are we going to do in the future? We don't want to repeat this again. If there's any message that's been loud and clear, and Governor Dalrymple and others have made suggestions, what can we do, even on the margin, to make a difference next year? Because we've all had, as Governor Brownback was suggesting, we've been out with our citizens. We've heard the stories. And when it's you, it makes a heck of a difference. So we care about those individuals, we care about those businesses, and we want to do all we can. Thank you very much for being here today.